All right, let's get right into it. If you're new here, the goal is just to learn one little micro step every single day to stay relevant with AI, whether it's in your employment, whether it's in your business, or whether you're pitching services externally. Learning one small thing every day and taking action on it is what will keep you relevant. Don't get left behind is the goal. All right, let's get straight into it. So yesterday, the company that builds one of the most powerful AIs on the planet published a number about itself that is not a marketing number and an internal one. They didn't have to share it, as it quietly hands you a map of exactly where the money in your industry is about to move. So the number is 80%. Now, as of last month, more than 80% of the code going into Anthropic's own products is now written by their own AI, not by the engineers. So let's think about that. Engineers coding. It's crazy to think things that existed even for kids, the concept of like get kids into Coder Dojo, the weekend kind of like sporting style coding education that existed in hundreds of cities globally. I mean, it's essentially defunct. And that's the thing here. That's the reframe that we all need to keep top of mind. Like we have to get away from the idea that AI is like a clever friend that we ask a couple of questions to. And now we need to understand that this is the building block of infrastructure for all things digital. So now you could panic about that. Most, channels could maybe make you say that, but the smart money does is read it as a map, because basically one stat which you can tell about the skill that's become worthless and which one's about to become the most valuable or more valuable than you think. So stick with me here, because at the end of this, you'll have a feel for the specific move that you can make this week, whether you are, like I said, self-employed, employed, or running a side business. All right, so what actually happened? Here's the real story, the real numbers. So let's get straight into it. So yesterday, June 4th, Anthropic Institute, the research and policy arm of Anthropic, spun up back in March, led by the company co-founder Jack Clark, published a report on its own internal development. They disclosed data that they previously kept secret. Okay, so let's get into it. So verified, safe to say as fact. This is from their own report. So as of May 2026, more than 80% of the code merged into Anthropic's code base is written itself by Claude. So in February 2025, it was as low as single digits. The typical Anthropic engineer now ships roughly 8 times as much code per day as 2024. So it's fascinating to think. It's not like people are out of a job. That's the big misnomer here as well. It's and that's why like with the learning that I'm encouraging us all to do, myself like very much included, and that's the reason why I'm doing this and sharing it with you, is because we have to do more. It's not about we're going to be redundant per se, but we have to learn to execute more and faster. So basically Anthropic frames this as a possible early step towards recursive self-improvement. It's funny actually with AI and the whole world around tech in the last couple of years, it's a lot of like kind of English words that were never particularly popular, but now have, become part of the typical lexicon and vocabulary. Recursive, can't say I've ever used recursive. I couldn't actually define it for you specifically as a single word. Anyway, AI keeps building its own successor and says in their own words, they say in their own words that it's happening faster than they thought. So let's sit with this for the moment. The engineers, the most advanced AI lab in the world, stopped handwriting code months ago. Their jobs didn't disappear. It changed shape. It collapsed down to 2 verbs, direct and review, direct and review. And that's what's so vital about understanding how to use AI. You are the orchestrator. You are the director. You need to be AI literate. All right. And the part that should get your attention more than the benchmark is the frontier AI company spent a chunk of this report arguing that the world should keep the option to slow down or pause frontier development. Jack Clark told the BBC that fully self-written code could be possible inside 2 years. When the people building the rocket start talking about where the brake pedal is, it's not necessarily marketing. So interesting. All right, let's keep moving forward, but let's keep this top of mind. Before you let anyone, including me, sell you the hype version, let's do the thing that no one on AI in terms of the YouTube stuff kind of pokes holes in. So an eye-popping 52 times number is one narrow benchmark. So Anthropic's internal preview model hit a 52x speed up on a specific task, optimizing AI code training, where a human skilled got to about 4x. That's not a 52x at everything. So don't repeat it as it is. So Anthropic itself warned that there are flawed lines of code within this. So volume isn't value. So more code can mean more productivity or arguably more issues, So that's kind of some of the skeptical stuff. So anyway, let's keep moving forward into the tool drops that are actually vital to try this week. So these are the little things that where most of us are getting exposure to ChatGPT, to Claude, to Gemini. but it's so vital to stay aware of the little micro differences that are changing constantly. Because again, we have to understand this. We're the orchestrator. There's a couple of key pillar tools out there that most of us are accessing. Within each tool, they all have different styles, different preferences, different ways of operating. For example, if you're looking at a spreadsheet from like a Google spreadsheet, for example, obviously using the Google products, Google Gemini, it can read it, it can give you a better result. It's phenomenal. If you're looking at something over on X, I took the other day an X post, actually made a video about it. I saw a super AI X post, put it into Grok, asked it to help produce it into a PDF for me, and obviously it read it in seconds. Now, if I put the same link into ChatGPT, it might say it can't read it. So Grok is amazing at transcription. Also, putting videos into Grok is phenomenal. Sometimes putting a video into ChatGPT will never work. So it's so vital that we all understand these little peculiarities. But let's go into the quick updates for this week. So ChatGPT's memory just got, shall we say, a brain transplant, and it's finally free. So yesterday, June 4th, OpenAI shipped the biggest overhaul of ChatGPT's memory since the feature launched, a background system they call Dreaming. Instead of only remembering what you explicitly tell it to do, it now works in the background, synthesizing context across all of your chats and keeping it current. So, for example, tell it you're flying to Singapore next week, and once the trip's over, it quietly updates itself to say that you were in Singapore last month. So that's super interesting. Also slightly frightening, but super interesting nonetheless. So the real numbers, OpenAI says factual recall went from about 68% to 83%. So some roundups today are claiming that it nearly doubled. It didn't. It's a solid jump. It's not doubling. So let's be specific about the numbers. The actual headline, for the first time, this is rolling out to free users. Amazing. Not just Plus and not Pro. So you now get 2x the memory capacity. And there's a new memory summary page, which you can see and edit everything that it knows about you. That's interesting. And this is also vital as part of your awareness of how AI is working. It's so important to know that everything you feed into AI, it's not anonymous. It's building up a picture of you. How is that going to look in 40 years' time? I mean, they're literally, AI is going to know what time you go to bed, what you had for lunch. They're going to know absolutely everything about you, your preferences, your thoughts, your tastes, your peculiarities, your dirty, guilty pleasures, the whole work. So I guess be careful about throwing up on AI, salacious details about your latest affair. It's just probably not going to be very helpful. Okay, let's keep moving forward. So if you're going to try one thing today, basically just jump in, open the memory page and confirm you like the look of everything. That's going to be super important. Let's move over to Grok. So Grok Image 1.5, one still image into a cinematic clip. So XAI just dropped its preview on June 3rd. So basically now you can handle a single image plus a prompt describing the motion, the camera move, and the atmosphere, and it'll animate it. Absolutely phenomenal. So try this. Basically, take a strong thumbnail or a product shot that you like the look of and see if you can turn it into a motion hook. Super interesting, always beneficial to be able to do these things, regardless of your role. Even if you work in a more, let's say, administrative role, or that's your style of thinking, it's really vital to be able to communicate and convey things. And oftentimes the people I've seen do best in all formats of their career or in life. And this actually goes back to, I think, that book, How to Make Friends. It's a bogey title, isn't it? How to Make Friends and Influence People. I think that phrase would never be used in 2026, but ultimately it's not even about influencing people. It's about just being a decent, fluid, kind of flowing person and getting on with people. The point is, anyway, one of the key tenets of that book is to just present things well. And I think it's about kind of nearly respect for the recipient and presenting things in a way that can actually be, the recipient can receive it. So by understanding AI tools, regardless of what your job is, if you're in construction, if you're in dentistry, whatever it is, if you can present information in a way that's enjoyable for the consumer to receive and actually easy for them to digest it, you're going to stand out. So make sure you understand how to use these little tools. So give that Grok tool a try. Okay, Perplexity, something that we haven't really spoken about a huge amount on the show here. Perplexity put its computer, in kind of quotes, agent directly into Microsoft 365. So native side panels in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook on top of Teams. So it pulls live web data, reads your spreadsheets, and updates your document without copy and pasting between tabs. They also shipped a kind of a personal computer on Mac that can edit your local files. So this is for paid tiers, but it's interesting to see Perplexity linking in with Microsoft. Microsoft doing a lot of integrations recently, and you can see they've got a hyper aggressive push to become dominant in the space. Okay, over to Claude Opus 4.8. I've actually been playing around with it a lot over the last while, and dynamic workflows. So an honesty upgrade is the real story. Anthropic shipped 4.8 in May. For most people, the headline isn't really speed. It's roughly 4x less likely than the previous version to let code flaw slips, basically to let problems happen. So when you're shipping work on AI untouched, it basically can make errors. Obviously, this is where the big improvement has been with 4.8. Although that being said, I have seen kind of just some anecdotal smartness and smarter styles of responses on things. Over to Gemini. So Gemini's work while you sleep agents, if you haven't tried them yet, I've encouraged you to do it. Make sure you jump in. So these landed at Google I/O a couple of weeks back, but they're rolling out now for most people who may or may not have access. So it's called Daily Brief, a morning digest from your Gmail and your calendar that prioritizes rather what happens next. And then Gemini Spark basically is your 24/7 AI agent. Now, again, for the most part, this is available to US users first, but keep an eye on it. Super vital to keep an eye and stay aware of it and make sure that you're having a look and understanding. So transparency, the part that keeps us honest. A few items floating around on other roundups today. The ChatGPT lockdown mode for all users, a built-in job search resume tool, and some Grok voice and composer features. Basically, this is interesting. So now, moving forward, making resumes, it's just going to be so clearly connected to AI. And then obviously, if you're using, for example, ChatGPT, or using Claude, for example, to make your resume, be smart about it. Take that resume once it's completed, push it through Claude, push it through ChatGPT, push it through Gemini, and ask it to find jobs that are relevant today. Emphasize the present tense aspect to find jobs that you might like to apply for. A super simple way to make the material that you first want, and then get it to go a step further. And that's the big thing that I would encourage all of us to do, myself included, is like, don't just do the first step. That usually what we've done for the last 2 years is take the first step, like find me, 10 real estate agents that have mobile phone numbers available or cell phone numbers available in Miami. Most people will do that. Now the next step is trying to say, like, go find me 10 real estate agents with email addresses, for example, available in Miami, and write them an outreach email and send that email. So you might hit a brick wall at the send point, but definitely make sure to try to push it the next step, like you see as far as you can possibly get. Okay, so we know that the Apple WWDC is a couple of days away. It's going to be a big push on Apple as they're linking in with Google Gemini, which is going to be replacing Siri. We've touched on that already, but just to be aware of it if you missed it, basically Apple Siri is now going to actually be essentially a Google-backed product, which is going to be fascinating. All right, so a through line from the last week still holds. So this follows Microsoft's build a few days ago, where AI agents went from a cool demo kind of to an on by default. Yesterday, Anthropic's numbers, Monday Siri, last week agents, the same current, same direction. So execution is getting automated. The layer above is where the humans and the money are moving. All right, so what does this mean for your money? So leverage just moved from doing the thing to directing the thing. So for 2 years now, your value was able to do it, to write the code, build the deck, draft the contract, cut the video, run the analysis. Anthropic just showed you, using their own payroll, that doing it is collapsing towards free. And notice who got the 8x, not the fastest typist, but the person who could direct and judge. So here's the blunt version. Basically, the people who are buying boring businesses for cash flow, stop selling your hands, start selling your judgment and your distribution. So for example, if you're selling your services, make sure that you're focusing on the time-saving approach. All right, so a couple of things, if you're employed, then make sure that you're staying relevant to these and think about how you can use one of these workflows towards your actual current job. If you're building a sideline, there's so much opportunity to basically be a consultant in this space, but don't just be generic. Try to think about building simple AI agents that you can resell to small businesses. And if you're running your own business, then ultimately make sure that your team stay abreast of this. Like, it's so vital to push your teams. And this is if you're employed or self-employed, it's so vital to push your teams around you to be using AI every single day. So don't just become like an AI strategy kind of fluff merchant. The internet's full of people selling kind of side decks around AI. The actual money is installing one boring workflow that saves measurable hours with a human ultimately checking the output. All right, so that's the key news for today. So here's the whole website kind of summarized in one line. The company building the future just told you with its own numbers that the job is shifting from doing to directing. So your move is to get on with the directing side of things in your job, in your business, on your pitch to your internal team. So in a couple of days from now, Apple are going to drop a much smarter assistant into a billion pockets. That's crazy. Actually, sorry, that will go live next week. That's insane. So we'll break down exactly what that means for your money at the moment it lands, and for your career in general. So yeah, we'll be super grateful for any feedback, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's keep stacking that 1%. It's so micro, but it really keeps you relevant, keeps you able to understand the macro concept of what's going on in the AI space, and then vitally down to precisely what you're able to do today to stay relevant and to make sure that you're abreast and connected to executing what is plausible right now.